Hey Hotspotters, Rob Potter here. I've got another little Photoshop tutorial for you guys now, and what I was doing is I was actually working through this image here, and I've gone through and completed it. If you're wondering where this image is before I show you the completed image, if you're wondering where this is actually taken down at Bradley's Head Reserve in Sydney. This is an amazing sunset photography location if you're in and around Sydney. Highly worthwhile, highly recommend rather, and highly worthwhile getting down and checking out this photography location. It is brilliant, and especially at sunset. You get the sun going down behind the Sydney skyline, and it can be really quite magical, and there's so much this location has to offer. But rather than me chat about this location, which I could do, I'll put a link down below to the photography review that I've done for this location on Photography Hotspots, so for Bradley's Head. So just click on that, check out all the information there, grab your camera, run down and check this location out. Worthwhile. Okay, enough of that. So this is the image that I'm working on. Now, again, what I want to show you guys is actually how I color corrected this image using Adobe Levels or Adobe Photoshop Levels. Before I do that, there's the before image. Sorry, there's the final image. So I'm about halfway through. Now, the technique that I'm about to show you, I actually do this to every single one of my images. But a little bit of a disclaimer, I don't always use it. So what I mean by that is sometimes you do this on an image, so you go through and color correct the image, and I'll give you a bit of a preview. So that's before and that's after. Okay, so quite, in my opinion, quite a big improvement. But you don't always get that sort of improvement or change when you do this technique. For reasons being that maybe the image is already pretty close to correct or correct in color. And it's up to you whether or not, sometimes, to be honest, sometimes I do it and I don't like it, or I do it and what I do is I drop the opacity, so I start to blend the two together, okay? Now, in this case, I did this and went, wow, I have to show you guys the effect and how to do it, because in my opinion, there's actually quite a big improvement here. And this is, when I've done it, after I've done it, I should say, this is much more how I remember it, with all the red in the sky. It was definitely bouncing off the wet path and the water, and it made things a little bit more warmer than what it appears without this correction. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into it. I'm going to leave that levels turned off because that's the one that I used. So I'm going to start from scratch, basically just think of it that they're not there. Actually, what I'll do to make that even easier for you guys is I'm just going to go and delete that. I've already saved the image, so that's sweet. I think I have. Okay, so what I'll do is up to this stage, I'm going to find levels. Now, just on another little side note, if you're using Adobe Photoshop Elements, CS3, CS4, basically they all have levels, so you're all good to go with this technique. You'll be able to apply this to your images as well. So I've opened up levels. This is the levels panel. Okay, now I'm not going to go too in depth into the levels panel, other than to say that if you're not quite sure what this is called a histogram, and basically it shows you the tonal range of an image. So what it's all made up of, from your dark tones, your blacks or 0, through to your mid tones, and then all the way over to your highlights. Okay, so our RGB 255 is pure white. So that's the right-hand side. Now, people use this a lot to correct underexposed images or overexposed images, and I'll definitely show you guys how to do that. It's very, very easy. But to color correct your images, there's actually a little bit of a trick to it, and we're going to use these little eyedroppers on the left-hand side here. So all I'm going to do is I go from left to right, so I'm going to start with the black one. So I'm going to set my black point first. So I'm going to click on that little eyedropper. Now we can see, if we have a look over the dark area of the histogram, there's actually no information over the very start of that. Okay, so we want to correct that. Basically, what we want to do is we actually want to set the black point of this image. So again, with my eyedropper there, I'm going to hold down the Alt key, and you can see that when I do that, my whole screen goes white. Now, if you're going, oh my God, what just happened? Don't panic. It's actually supposed to do that. And what we're going to do now is, while holding down the Alt key, I'm going to left click and drag to the right that dark tab. And what I'm actually doing by doing that is I'm actually manipulating the output. So as you can see down the bottom here, this is actually our output. So I'm making the black tones not so black if you understand sort of what I mean by that. So again, left click, hold, and have I got that? Yep, there we go. So Alt, left click, and I'm going to drag that to right. Now, as I do that, you'll start to see all different colors come in. You can start to see the outlines of the rocks and the skyline, and the trees and the wharf and those types of things. But what I want to do is I actually want to drag that to the right far enough so that I'm starting to introduce a little bit of black. Because what I'm after, again, is to set the black point. So I'm looking for black. Okay, so we've got blue, we've got yellow. Now there's a little bit of black creeping into it there. Down the bottom. So what I'm going to do at that stage is I'm going to stop. Now I can hold down my Alt key, come over and find that and click. So again, hold down the Alt key, just left click on that black spot. And that'll change my image. What I'm going to do, because I like to try and be a little bit more exact, is I'm actually going to zoom in. So I'm going to grab my magnifying glass there. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab my little black eyedropper, Alt, and now I've got a better chance of clicking it. Okay, so I want to make sure that I'm over a black spot, and I'm going to left click. Okay, and you can see that when I did that, that actually changed, so there's not so much black there anymore. And my histogram is now actually over the left-hand side of my panel. So it now encompasses the whole histogram. And if I zoom out, you'll actually see that it's already started to change my image a fair bit. So if I actually turn that layer on and off using the eye icon there, there you go. You can already see that we're already starting to see some change in the color. Now that's sort of halfway through, so I haven't quite finished yet. What I want to do now is actually set the white point. So I'm going to skip the midtones. I don't worry about the midtones. So I'm going to come to the white eyedropper, and exactly the same thing, just moving this time to the left. So hold down my Alt key, left click, and start to drag across. And again, we get a black screen. There's some other color there. But I'm going to drag this across, and basically I'm doing this until I find some white starting to creep into my image. Now we can see that it's creeping in there on the path, which doesn't really surprise me because that the light's really bouncing off that path. So I'm now going to, again, I'm going to grab my eyedropper and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Let's see if we can find it again. So again, Alt, and then left click on the white tab. And you can see it's just in there a little bit, so I might even aim for this spot down here. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit again. Now you don't have to zoom in. If you're in a bit of a rush, you can just sort of hover over it. I'm going to mark that eyedropper again. Hover over it and click, and you probably find that you're fairly accurate. I'm just being a little bit picky, I guess. No pun intended there. So I'm going to left click on that. You can see again when I did that, everything sort of changed. There's less white. Because we've moved the output again. But now, if I zoom out, you can see that my histogram has really flattened itself out, but it now encompasses everything. So I'll just move that down a little bit down the bottom here. And now if I turn that on and off, okay, you can see that, in my opinion, that has vastly improved this image. Now, like I said before, you don't always get this kind of improvement in your image. Sometimes it won't improve the image that much, but this is something that I always do in all my post-processing just to see what it gives me. It doesn't hurt. It's quite a quick little process, especially once you get used to it, but something that I would recommend you do, because again, it can really improve your images. All right, well, I hope that's helped. Again, definitely get down to this location and check it out. I'll put the link below. If you're liking these videos, let me know what you think by leaving a comment or subscribing. That would be fantastic. Even if you have any questions about Photoshop, I'd love to hear them, because that way it helps me come up with new topics for these Photoshop tutorials. So until next time, guys, hope that helps. Happy snapping, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, guys. Bye.